Okay, so we have a new box that has been leaked, and it is nuts. So, first of all, the very first thing I saw was the banner, right? And I thought, oh great, they're putting a subpar CXE's monster as the cover card for the new main box. I was worried because we'll see in a moment, but it's really not that good of a card. It might see more use than it did in the TCG, purely because we have a lower base life point, so reaching the life point threshold for its effect to be active, that might actually be possible. Whereas in the TCG, most of the time, if you got to that stage in the game, you weren't making this to to outplay your opponent. Like at that point, you needed something better, or something that wasn't as much as that. It was just in this weird spot. But it might see play in the Duel Links. So, and especially because its main use in the TCG, believe it or not, was just to put on a Utopia after you use its effect twice, so it wouldn't just kill itself. So, at the very least, you might see it for that, but I have a feeling we might see its effect actually go off more in Duel Links than we did in the TCG. But anyway, I saw that, I'm like, all this is going through my head, right? I'm like right about here, right? I'm looking at all these leaked cards, rarity changes and whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, might get into all that later, that's not why I'm here, right? And then I'm scrolling, right? And then the very first thing that caught my eye was these three, all at once. And they all invoke different thoughts, and just like these three alone, forget the rest of the box, right? Because okay, this one a little bit different, but these two definitely, forget the rest of the box. These two alone will change the game. Okay, first of all, we've already got the best dinosaur monster, best dinosaur level 4 normal monster to use for Rescue Rabbit. Now all we need is the better rank 4 Xyz, but that will come at some point, I'm sure. But point being is that we've got the start of a potential Rescue Rabbit based meta, because the game is slow enough where Rescue Rabbit could alone breed a strategy like Dino Rabbit did in TCG, but we'll just have to wait and see. But there's a few other cards. There's one other card in particular in this box that really makes me think this. Now, for Kage, this card will make gadgets funny. And what do I mean by that? Well, all of red gadget, green gadget, and yellow gadget, all of them just add another monster when they're normal summoned. But them by themselves, they don't really do anything, right? All they do is add another copy, right? Well, you play them with something like a Tin Goldfish or a Goblinberg, and then you get a rank 4 out of it. But then you're thinking to yourself, well, there are reasons why you don't want to mess with that, right? There are things that make doing that strategy a bit clunky, and that's because if you open with only gadgets, you don't do anything, right? Kage is essentially another form of Tin Goldfish and Goblinberg. And this doesn't just go for gadgets, by the way. This is like any deck that you'd really want to play Tin Goldfish or Goblinberg in, most of those decks would also benefit from Kage, or at least a certain amount of them anyway. Something like Tellarknights could use this the same way, but then something like, say, the water deck, you know, the rank 4 water deck, that would rather use Tin Goldfish, right? So there's some things you can't replace with it, but overall it's just another, I want to get multiple level 4 monsters on the field for an Exceed Summit, and it's a good card. And it might even get better if we get the reptile searcher Exceed monster, but it doesn't matter. The point being is that this is a good rank 4 making card, and there are some interesting applications with it being dark, but let's not worry about that right now. Starsail Receptor. I've never said that name before, because its name is Stick to me. But we'll get into why this is good when we get to the other card in here that makes this good, because it by itself, it's okay, you know, it does what it needs to do, but you play this because of the other card, and you play the other card because of this card. You can't, any deck that contains one, if you don't contain the other one, you're not playing it to its fullest capability, so we'll get into that later. Rescue Rabbit, already talked about a bit. One of the things I think will actually be interesting is that you can technically make Noble Knight Xyz with it, which is the card in this box that I wanted to go through. It's the new Noble Knight Xyz. You technically can with this because Noble Knights have a normal monster. Will that be good? I don't know. It might breed its own Noble Knight version that may or may not be as good as the 30 card balanced version at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see. But that is something you could do, and I'm definitely going to try it out myself. I'm sure there's other applications like this. This thing is so broad in what it can do that I could not possibly go over all of its applications in this one video. So I might even make a Rescue Rabbit video on its own, just going through every noteworthy Rescue Rabbit target. And yeah, so watch out for that if I do end up making that video. Utopia Ray, right? Number C39, Utopia Ray. 3 level 4 light monsters is a lie. All you need for this is 2 level 4s, you make your Utopia. Once you've made Utopia, your extra deck will light up again, and you can see that you can summon this. You just slap this on top of your Utopia. That's all you need to know about it. Its effect, like I said, rarely saw use in the TCG. You almost always just put this on a Utopia that didn't have materials, or on top of a Utopia that got Fiendish chained, stuff like that. Or like a permanent attack drop. You just slap this on top. It has the same base attack, it just doesn't have an effect like Utopia. Its effect reads, you can detach an Exceed material from this card, it gains 500, and one monster your opponent controls loses 500 until the end phase. You have to have 1,000 life points or less to activate and resolve. So that means if you activate this effect, and then your opponent somehow increases your life points over 1,000, this effect will do nothing, alright? So you need to have 1,000 or less when you activate it, and when it resolves. Now, what's interesting is this is not a once per turn effect, alright? So, technically, assuming you have, say you made a Utopia and you slapped it right on top, right away, you didn't use Utopia's effect ever, you essentially have 3 materials to use for this effect, and you can do it all in the same turn, technically, right? Which means, this card, if your opponent has a Blue Eyes and nothing else, this card can not only attack over that Blue Eyes, but can do so and attack for game. So, will we see that happen? Again, I don't know. Maybe because of the fact that it can have such a high attack threshold, with its attack getting up to 4,000, and your opponent's attack losing as much as 3,000. Maybe a deck will spawn of just, let's reduce our own life points and then make a rank 4 and go for game. That might actually be a strategy that pops up. Or it might not, who knows. I'm gonna try it though. I'm gonna try to figure that out. I probably won't. I usually see these sort of things and then try it myself, and then someone does it way better than me. So again, will it happen or not? I don't know. It's a possibility. But at the end of the day, at the very least, this is a way to get you Utopia out of a Fiendish Chain, or to keep it alive after you use both materials. And at the very least, that's worth at least owning one copy. I don't like these three. I think you need 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit, 3 copies of Star Scepter, 2 to 3 Kage to Kage, if you're going to have any copies at all. Utopia Ray, on the other hand, 1 copy is fine. Even in a dedicated deck, I think 1 copy is fine, 2 might be pushing it. Even in a dedicated deck. Maybe in a Utopia-centric deck, you could argue for more, just because it has the Utopia name and it's a Utopia Xyz monster, so it plays well with Utopia-themed cards. But even in there, 2 might be too many. So like, you can easily, if you get like the kind of luck where with steals and gems and everything, you end up with 3 copies of everything else, except you only have 1 copy of Ray, you're fine. You can get out of the box perfectly fine. So, Constella M7. I'm going to skip that middle word. M7 is an interesting card. It's arguably the second best Constella Xyz monster. We don't have, and we won't have in this box, and it's not above in the leaked cards either, the better one, which is Pallades, which is a rank 5. This is a rank 6. Technically, with one of the cards in this box, technically you can make it just naturally with 2 level 6 monsters and be able to use its effect on the turn you summon it, but generally speaking, you're going to use M7's effect that allows you to just, it's like Utopia Ray. Grab any Constella Xyz monster and slap M7 on top of it. Alright? Now, if you do that though, you can't use its effect the turn you summon it that way. Okay? So that's why technically there is some merit to the idea of using that 1 card that is in this box. Well, it's technically 2 cards put together, but one of those cards you will play in the Constella deck regardless, and the other card probably won't. So technically it's 1 card, right? That we're talking about is the difference. And there is some merit, because maybe you need to out something, right? Because its effect is, you detach a material, target a monster on the field or in the graveyard, and return it to the hand. It's not a quick effect, it doesn't say during either player's turn, so the fact that you can't do it the turn you summon it, if you put it on top of a Constella Xyz monster, does hinder its power level. Which is why I think, until we get Pallades, we will see people playing the way to make it naturally, even though it won't be happening commonly. And then, for the amount of copies you need for it, depends, right? If you're playing a Constella deck, I'd say 2 might be a good number, but honestly anywhere from 1 to 3 would work. But outside of that, I think 1 copy's fine, because you'd only really need it if your deck can make 2 level 6s on the field, and they're not too common, they're not super uncommon either, but again, it's not something that if you're going to have it, you need 3. It's like anywhere from 1 to 3 will work for a Constella deck, and no more than 1 for any other deck. Though unless maybe Thunder Dragon, because Thunder Dragon can rank 6 relatively easy, if I remember correctly. I might be remembering incorrectly, but unless you can rank 6 easily, then you're only going to run this on the off chance that you're able to rank 6. But if you can rank 6 easily, then put as many copies as you want, because there's no better rank 6 Xyz in the game at this time. So, now we've got Hierarchic Dragon, Overlord, Heliopolis. Now, this is one of the earlier generic rank 8s, right, from the TCG. And it scares me. So it scares me because of other cards in here too, but the main reason it scares me is because Blue Eyes is getting a new structure deck, and it's already easy to put 2 Blue Eyes on the field, and now it's going to be even easier. So why am I scared? Well, once per turn you can detach a material from this card, tribute any number of monsters from your hand or field, then destroy an equal number of monsters. Now, why is this scary? You can tribute any type of monster, right? Doesn't have to be a dragon, it doesn't matter, right? Secondly, you can tribute the White Stone of Legend and the other stone. You can tribute them from your hand and benefit from that, right? So you don't need to be playing, you know, stuff like a Karmaka or Rogeki Break just to be able to get him out of your hand if you get stuck with him, or be, you know, anything like that, because you can just tribute off with this, right? If you've already got your plays going. Another thing is that you can tribute any amount, right? And then you destroy any cards on the field equal to that amount, right? So if your opponent has a full board of 3 monsters and 3 spell or traps in their back row, heck, let's say I have a field spell too, you could detach a material, tribute 2 other monsters you control, and all the cards, all the monsters in your hand, boom, their whole field is gone. Is that likely to happen? No. But is it possible to happen? Yes. And having the flexibility for those very uncommon scenarios is good, especially if you can make rank 8s easily, which Blue Eyes can. There'll be another deck that can too, but Blue Eyes is the one I'm most scared of, because they're already kind of decent. Like, they're not top tier, but, you know, you don't instantly lose just by playing Blue Eyes because you want to have fun playing your favourite deck. Like, Blue Eyes is not anything to laugh at, anything to sneeze at. Dark Talonite Batalamus. I was saying in the original Talonite box that this is the card. Like, being fairly reasonable and being like, hey, Konami, I get it, you're not going to give us Trevor early. Maybe at all. Trevor is too good, possibly, for Duel Links. Maybe in the future when the power level's higher, but, like, I get it, you're not going to give us Trevor. Then there is the other one, I don't remember its name, but it's banned in the TCG for good reason. That could come too, but it'll just ultimately get banned in the future anyway, because it's as good as what the higher rank Xyz card pool is, and when that card pool gets better, so does this generic. It's a generic card too, it doesn't need Talonites, it's only minimum 2 level 4, it's very easy to make, very easy to abuse. I get it, don't give us that. So if you're going to give us any more Talonite support that would actually be helpful, please give us Batalamus, Dark Talonite. Why did I say that? Well, the main problem Talonites have is that if they can't get 3 monsters on the field to make Deltaros, then they haven't got to play, right? If you open Vega, Altair, Deneb, Ukulele, right? If that's what you open, you have not got a good play, right? You either make some subpar rank 4, you set a monster, it's just nothing that you can do is that good, right? And because you didn't open any traps, you could easily just lose by having that hand alone. Dark Talonite Batalamus, on the other hand, it isn't generic. It does need Talonite monsters, but it only needs 2 of them, right? So, why does this fix the problem, right? Well, firstly, its main use, and arguably only use, right, is that you can detach a material and then discard a card. So you do need to have another card in hand. But once you do this effect, you get to just get any light Talonite monster, which, newsflash, there's only 2 Talonite Xyz monsters, one of them light and one of them dark. So guess who we're grabbing? We're grabbing Deltaros, and we're slapping that bad boy on top of Dark Talonite Batalamus. Actively turned 2 Talonite monsters into what would normally require 3. And you do have to discard a card to do so, so in a way you're not using more resources, you're just not forced to have God hands to do it, right? You're not forced to have, you know, Deneb plus, Ukulele plus, the Sky Bridge, or whatever the combo is, like, you know, it's a 3-card combo or whatever. Point being, or like something like Goblinberg or Tin Goldfish, right? You could play only Tellarknight monsters and not rely on Sky Bridge to get a Deltaros turn 1, and that is what matters, right? But more importantly, and this is the part that most players will miss, both people playing the card and playing against it, is that if you have 7 or more Tellarknights in your grave with different names, which is probably not going to happen early game, this is like a late game thing, you can activate this effect during either player's turn. What that means, like, yeah, you start to think like, oh, I could summon it in my opponent's turn, but what good is the Deltaros on my opponent's turn? It's like, what am I, you know, the main reason why I bring this up is that this is an OTK factor, or not OTK, but like a finishing game factor, right? Because you could attack with this, and be like, oh look, I have 7 different Tellarknight monsters in my grave. I'm just going to detach a card, make a Deltaros, attack again, it's game. Is it going to happen? Again, this is like the whole thing with the full board with Erratic Dragon Heliopolis. It's not going to happen often, but it's going to happen enough times where knowing that this effect is there could be the difference between winning and losing. So just keep that in mind if you're a Tellarknight player. Next, we have a Erratic spell that just adds a Erratic from deck to hand. If you're playing Erratics, this is a good card. Erratics is like gonna be good at some point. I don't think they're gonna be good out of this box. I think the power level of the current meta and near future meta is just a tad bit high for Heretics to be right up there, but I think they're going to be playable to the point where, like, making this is not bad, right? Making Heliopolis is not bad, and they make it well. So I think you'll see them around, but I don't think they'll be too threatening if you can deal with this card. They don't have a good turn 1 is what I'm trying to say. At least with Blue Eyes, they usually set it up so that they can do something in your turn, or they have a recovery after you have your turn. Hierarchics at the moment don't have that, even with the support from this box. But you know, they've got pieces, but there's chinks in the armor, and if you know that there's chinks in the armor, it's not going to be as bad, right? But also, I'm not that knowledgeable of Heretics, so I could be talking about my ass right now about them. But what I can say is that they have propped up from time to time in the TCG because they can do silly things, and silly things generally lead to higher performance in certain stages of a game's metagame. So whether or not they're good, I feel, is entirely dependent on the rest of the metagame. Versus some other things, it's other things you can very much tell straight away, this will be meta or this won't be. Something like Heretics, it's going to depend on the meta at the moment, and it will always fluctuate based on the current meta. So in that sense, it's a good investment because it will come back whenever it goes down. Whereas there's some decks that will just never come back after getting power crept, even if they never get hit by Konami. Going to the SRs, let's skip straight for chair, because I don't want to skip over stick for too long. So now we have, no, not you, here we go. Star Seraph Sovereignty, or as we, who know what it does, like to call it, chair. So now we have stick plus chair. Now what am I talking about here? Stick is quite simple. What stick does is you normal or special summon it. You get to add any Star Seraph from your deck to your hand except itself. Newsflash, the only other Star Seraph worth talking about is Sovereignty. So we add it to our hand. Now let's skip over to Sovereignty, right? So we add Sovereignty out to our hand, and it reads, if you normal special summon a Star Seraph monster, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card. If you do draw a card, then if the card you drew was a Star Seraph, you can special summon it. Now the cute thing here is, if you normal summon Scepter, the window in which you added Sovereignty counts as a Star Seraph monster was just summoned. What that means is that you get to special summon it straight away after using Chair. After normal summoning Stick. So what that essentially means is Stick on its own equals Stick and Chair on the field, minimum. Now there is a quirk, right? Because you might be hearing all this and be going, oh, that sounds too good to be true, right? A 1-card rank 4, right? Not quite. Sovereignty reads that it cannot be used for an Xyz summon, except for an Xyz summon that uses 3 monsters. So that's going to be monsters like Utopia Ray. Technically, with 3 Star Seraph monsters, you can make it, right? Don't think it's a good idea, but you can. You can make Deltaros with it. You can make what's that? The Vega or Omega or whatever it's called. The one that sucks. The like sucks up monsters from the previous mini box. I can't be bothered looking up. But point being, only monsters that say 3 level 4 monsters or 3 or more, right? So that is a downfall. But on the plus side, when you use Stick as a material, you can target a card in the field, destroy it, and draw a card. So, will Stick Chair see play? I'm gonna say, in Tellarknights, I think it will. I think it will, but I think we're waiting on some other decks to exist before Stick Chair really goes off. But I could be wrong. But I think no matter what, you will see Stick Chair in some decks. I can't predict all of them, because Stick Chair is an engine, right? Think of Stick Chair like Invoker. You don't make a deck based around Star Seraphs. Unless, okay, you do, but what I mean is, Star Seraphs make the deck go brr. Right? Invoked held up. Invoked made a lot of strategies possible, right? That's the best way to put it. Star Seraphs will do the same. Whether they'll do it immediately now, or 6 months from now, a year from now, any in between, doesn't matter. Point being is they will impact the game at some point. I can't say for certainty whether it will be straight away or not, simply because I haven't thought about it for too long. I've been doing more thinking about some cards further down here. That's right, I've been thinking more about the rares and normals than I have about the SRs and URs. Point being, it will be good. People might have already figured out how it will be good, but I haven't, so keep that in mind. But back to the rest of the SRs. We've got a Noble Knight monster. So you can target a Noble Arms equip spell, equip to it, and a face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy both, then draw a card. But this guy can't attack. That's fine, because honestly, I think the play with this is, you could justify this as a one-of copy in Noble Knights as a sort of extra Driston, in the sense that, like, so with how you play Driston, you generally summon it with the trap card from grave, which means that you can't have a Driston already in the grave or on the field to be able to do that. This is technically another copy, in a sense that, like, once you can't do it on your opponent's turn, but this is the card that you do on your turn. So you have a Driston for your opponent's turn, a Driston for your turn, is how I view it. Will that be the best way to play Noble Knights once this is out? Who knows? I haven't, I'm gonna have to play with it a bit. I still feel like the Noble Knight deck at the moment is still developing and hasn't quite reached, possibly hasn't reached its peak yet. And now we've got more support coming in a future box, so the flow of the deck and what is the best way to play it is still changing. So I can see a world where this is used, but can't say whether it will or not. Constella Sombre. So you can only use each of its effects once per turn when it's in the graveyard, and only if it was sent to the graveyard this turn. Doesn't care where it was sent from, by the way. Hand, deck, field, as a material from an Xyz summon, Xyz monster's effect, does not matter. But it has to be that turn if you want to use this effect, which is you can normal summon a Constella for 1 less tribute. I'm going to be the first to say it, you probably won't use this, because in the Constella decks that were meta in the TCG, at the time they were meta, mostly didn't play higher than level 4. So I don't think we will see that effect be used, but at the same time, I'm sure someone out there is going to make a build that successfully gets them to King of Games and incorporates that effect in it. But do I think it's going to be the general strategy for the deck? No. But good thing it has another effect, which is you can. This isn't while it's on the field effect, by the way. You can banish 1 monster from your graveyard and target 1 Constella monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Then this card gains another effect, which is this turn you can activate this effect, normal summon 1 Constella monster. Effectively what this is you've already had your first turn, whether your board survived or not, doesn't matter, but you've now got at least 1 Constella monster in your graveyard, and you want to make a play on your next turn, right? So you summon your Sombre, well, you have to have 2 in grave, sorry, I misspoke. You summon Sombre, banish 1 from grave, add the other from grave, then use Sombre's new effect that it's gained to then normal summon that one you added. So it's a bit of a recovery play. You're not playing 3 of this card. I think it's like maybe 1 to 2, but I can't say which it will be of 1 or 2, but I can definitely say it's not going to be 3, because it does nothing by itself, right? And yeah, that's it. Pollux. Simple effect. During the turn it was summoned, normal summoned, you can normal summon a Constella from your hand. That's it. Pretty alright effect. Oh, I just wanted to say for Sombre, that effect where you normal summon, that's not an additional normal summon. So actually, what you how you play this card is not quite how you would think by reading it, because it says that you can normal summon a monster, but it doesn't say it's an additional normal summon, so you got to keep that in mind. Hierarchic Dragon Tefnuit. This is the best Hierarchic, well, one of the best Hierarchics that we've been missing. And the only reason I even know that this card exists is because it's good enough that I remember its name, okay? I don't even remember its effect, I just remember its name, and it being prominent in not just Hierarchic decks, but in Hierarchic engines that have been used in other decks in the TCG. So, what does it do? If only your opponent controls a monster, you can just special summon it from hand. Basically Cyber Dragon. This card cannot attack during the turn, it will special summon this way. 9 times out of 10 you don't care, because I'm pretty sure this is just an extender for doing other stuff. When this card is tributed, special summon 1 dragon normal monster from hand, deck or grave, but its attack and defense 0. I think you generally summon that like giant egg looking thing. Again, I've never really played Hierarchics, I just know this card is used a lot in them. And I'm pretty sure all you Hierarchic fans out there are looking at this card and going, fuck yes, we finally got it, woohoo, parades, going down the streets, whatever. But yeah, you know, good for you. I have no idea. I have zero idea if Hierartics are going to be good after this box or not. There, I said it. We already talked about chat. Okay, this guy. I did not think that we would get this guy so soon, right? Because it's actually a relatively new card in the TCG, and I read it a little bit ago, and I thought, I would like this for Duel Links, but I was afraid that Konami would be a bit conservative with Noble Knights. But I guess it makes sense to put it in the first main box to release after the structure deck, because that boosts sales of both. So it makes sense in hindsight, but I actually just thought they would add a couple more main deck monsters that we're missing, and maybe the equip spell we're missing, instead of this guy, personally. But I'm happy we got it. What does it do? So it needs 2 or more level 4 Noble Knight monsters. This means that you can give it 3 materials straight from the get-go if you want to, which is relevant for its effect. You can detach any number of materials from this card and target that many cards your opponent controls. Return them to the hand. So it's non-destruction removal, which is good, and putting them back in the hand means that against opposing extra deck monsters, your opponent essentially lost not only their investment in the extra deck monster, but also the monster itself. And then of course some cards are just a pain once they're in your hand. Like say you're playing against a Elemental Hero Neos deck, right? Just pulled that one out of my ass. You're playing against a Neos deck, and they've summoned Neos, right? You put that back in their hand, it's a little bit annoying, right? That's not a good example, but point being is that sometimes it can be, right? And so, overall, it's good all around. Knowing that you can get up to 3 cards with this, and it's not just monsters, it's any cards, right? Knowing you can get up to 3 that's insane value. It's literally a 3-for-3 trade, and you keep a monster on board. Now, one thing to note about this card is, unlike the other 2 extra deck XEs Noble Knight monsters, it does not equip when summoned, right? So you do need to use the effects of the equip spells to give him any equips from grave, right? So certain combos that currently exist, like the Driston in the opponent's turn, will still work. But then there's certain other combos or series of plays where you do have to remember that if you've already re-equipped an equip spell, you can't equip it onto this, right? So you should be making the other rank 4 in that scenario. Also, rank 4 is somewhat awkward for Noble Knights. It's not actually awkward, but it can be if you're like specifically trying to make rank 4. I think it's much easier to make a rank 5, but maybe with this card introduced to the deck, that changes the way we play a bit, and maybe it no longer becomes so hard. Maybe we change a few ratios and add or remove some cards, and that makes it more possible. I can't say for sure, gonna have to play with it a bit, but definitely playing it in the deck, hands down, at least 1 copy. And we haven't even read the rest of its effect yet. So, if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon any Noble Knight XE's monster from your extra deck, except itself, attach this card to that monster's material, and it's treated as an XE summon. What does that mean? Your opponent destroys this by battle. Your opponent Regeki breaks it, right? Either way. Goes to the grave, then you go, I'm gonna summon Artorigus. Artorigus? Yeah, Artorigus. It doesn't matter which one. It's both the same guy. Let's say we go for the rank 5, right? because we want its effect for the next turn, right? Just as an example. So we go for the rank 5, we attach this as a material, but it's treated as an Xyz summon. Now Taurus gets to go, hey, I've been Xyz summoned, let me equip from grave. So that is a little bit of why the previous thing I mentioned about this card not attaching from grave, it doesn't matter as much as long as the way your opponent deals with this card is through either battle or card effect destruction, okay? But, you know, that's... I think this is definitely gonna shake up how the deck is used against the opponent. I don't think this card alone will change how you play as much as I might have initially thought. But it will still change the way you play a bit, I think, but it will actually more so change the way the opponent plays against you. Because currently, you know, if they do read your cards, they will have to deal with, you know, destroying your monster twice, or like dealing with your equips first, then dealing with your monster, right? With this card, you can effectively set it up that your opponent has to destroy this card by battle or card effect twice to kill it, and then twice more to kill the replacement, and if you're going for the rank 5 then summons a monster from grave. So then you have to kill the monster summoned from grave, right? Now, it does say on Sacred Noble Knight King Custonin that each effect can only be used once per turn. So you can't, with the rank 5, then summon this guy and then, you know, continuously loop, right? It doesn't work like that. But what you can do is, you know, summon it as like a blocker, right? Where they need 2,500, more than 2,500 attack to get over. So you can effectively, in the ideal scenario, create a situation where your opponent has to destroy this guy twice to get through the equip spell, then kill the replacement twice to get through the equip spell again, then an additional 2 times for the rank 5's replacement, because you summon this guy, right? Assuming you have the equip spell in your hand, again, this is all ideal scenarios we're talking about. Assuming you have this guy in your hand, you equip the equip spell. Then, what that goes in, then, you know, say they kill it, right? It dies, you summon the rank 5, the rank 5 activates its effect to equip the equip spell from grave. Then, the rank 5 dies, and if you have another monster already, the equip spell will equip to that. So, the amount of attacks you can block with just this one rank 4 alone is quite good, because like I said, with the equip spell you get minimum 5 blocks, sorry. But if you don't have the equip spell, that's still a minimum of 3 attack blocks, right? Which is a full board. You know, not every deck has multiple attacks or a mask change, right? So that's, you know, that's survivability that it's adding, which will increase its ability to fight against decks that it's not doing so well against, in my opinion. Apart from Necro Valley, fuck Necro Valley. Next off we have Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger. Now this guy, again, keeping in theme with the rest of the box so far, you could use 2 level 7s to summon it, or you can take your rank 5 or your rank 6 Xyz monster and just slap this bad boy on top. And what's its effect? It's quite simple actually, it just does piercing damage. This card is really good to put on top of something like, say, a Volcasaurus from the previous mini box, where you use Volcasaurus' effect, you pop a card, you deal some burn damage. Oh, but now Volcasaurus can't attack. Well, put Gaia Dragon on top, bam, I can attack again and I have piercing. This is also useful if you've used an effect and you no longer have materials, or if, say, someone's Fiendish Chained, again, like I mentioned with Utopia Ray, Yeah, it's a good card. If you're playing rank 5 or rank 6 monsters, slap one Gaia Dragon in, because it's a good card. Hierarchic Dragon, King of Atum. Now, I've seen this card a few times being played, but not very much, and it makes sense why, because it's 2 level 6 dragon monsters. Quite specific. It reads, once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, special summon a dragon monster from your deck, but make its attack and defense 0. This card cannot attack the turn you activate its effect. I saw this when link summoning was a thing. I don't recall seeing it. Oh no, I did see it a little bit beforehand, but again, I don't remember it too much. I think it's good for Erratic decks if I remember correctly, but yeah, again, it's a Erratic card. I can't really tell you too much about it. Number 91, Thunderspark Dragon. This is not that good of a card. So it needs 3 level 4 monsters, so it's competing for that using 3 monsters slot, like with Deltaros and I think it's Omega or Vega, whatever the fuck the Violon's called. It's competing already, so does its effects stack up? Well, detach 3 materials, destroy all other face-up monsters on the field. That's not bad, but you're effectively using 3 cards, 3 resources to destroy all other face-ups. That includes your monsters. So you need to make sure this is the only monster you have that's face-up, which shouldn't be hard, but you know, it is something that you need to mention. It does have another effect, where if you detach 5, you destroy all cards your opponent controls, right? You might be thinking, how do I get 5 materials on this? There are ways, it's not consistent. You might see a meme deck with this card, and I think that's where it's gonna like sit for most of the time. You're gonna see people memeing with the detach 5 effect. You might see it show up occasionally in like a more normal deck, but I don't see it being that good. I think it's just another average to bad rank 4 that Konami is giving us to, you know, increase the Xyz pool we have. I think it just barely deserves an SR slot. I'll put it that way. I think it just barely deserves it. But in a box like this so far, I think it's the worst SR, and actually, no, it's definitely the worst SR here, but it's competing with a mostly good SR pool, so I wouldn't be upset if I pulled this. I would be upset if during the course of trying to get all the copies of URs I want, that I pulled 6 of these, you know, so keep that in mind. Alright, it's time everybody to high five the sky. This is an anime card if you ever saw one. Ultimately speaking, this is Zexal's version of Yojo Friendship. And Zexal had a lot of very anime cards, both in their artwork and name combination. But High Five the Sky, let's go. During your battle phase, so you do have to set it, wait till your next turn, go to battle phase, target a Xyz monster that attacked this turn. So you've already attacked with your Xyz monster, it can make a second attack during this battle phase. And if it does, your opponent can't activate shit until the end of the damage step. So it effectively turns your monster that has already attacked into an Armades with this second attack. Does that make it a good card? No, because it's a trap card, but it's a fun card. And I think it will see a similar level play as you'll see with number 91. But I think High Five the Sky will be more fun to resolve than number 91. Either of number 91's effects will be. I might be biased in that. And in fact, if you were to say High Five the Sky is arguably worse than number 91, I would not argue against you. All I will say is that High Five the Sky is a more fun card even if you think it's worse. I think it's slightly better, barely. But, again, I think it's a fun factor card. I would be, because of my attachment to it from a fun standpoint, I would not be upset if I ended up with 20 copies of this card over the course of playing Duel Links. I'm not going to go out of my way to do that, but I will not be upset if I got stray copies from doing, like, you know, those cheap SR packs. Another Zexal anime card, anime inspired, Halfway to Forever. Now this one actually does have some semblance of potentially being used in more decks, apart from just having fun. Target 2 monsters in your grave. Sorry. You target 2 monsters in your grave, special summon both, but negate their effects, if any. If you do, straight away, as soon as they're on the field, Exceed summon a Light Utopia or Utopic. We don't have any Utopic yet, but we will in the future, I'm sure. Exceed monster using only those 2 monsters, right? So, what does this do? This can make a Utopia just from 2 monsters in your grave. Is making a Utopia using a trap card by using graveyard monsters worth it? I think in a Utopia themed deck, this card could see play. I don't think it's good in decks unless you're going for full on Utopia is my only goal, Utopia is all I'm gonna make deck. In a deck where you have 2 to 3 Utopia, 2 Utopia Ray minimum, and then like the rest of your extra deck is just like a couple of random cards, because we don't have any more Utopias yet, but you will replace those random cards with more Utopias when we get them, okay? That's the type of deck that you play Halfway to Forever in. You don't play in other rank 4 decks that could make Utopia, because you're not always going to make it, so you won't always want it in your extra deck, right? Not everyone can fit Utopia in their extra deck, right? If you can fit it in there, and you can reliably get 2 monsters in your graveyard, I would not fault you for playing it. However, I think it will perform better in a Utopia themed deck. But I think as a one-of, in like some decks, it would be a nice surprise factor, because it's effectively, what this effectively is a trap card that reads summon a 2500 attack monster, negate 2 monster attacks at any time. That's effectively what it reads at, on a base level. So in that sense, it's not bad, especially because you don't have to activate it when they attack. Most negating attack trap cards, they need to attack for it. So in that sense, I think it's not the worst, but it might not see as much play as something like it won't see as much play as what Utopia will. I'll put it that way. Not every deck that includes Utopia should include Halfway to Forever, but if you include it, I would not argue against that. And I'm gonna mess around with playing like maybe 1 copy in a few decks, just to see how often having it as an option comes up. Moving on to the rares. This should take less time, and the normals should take even less, because there are fewer and fewer good things to say, and a few cards with like barely any text. Curie Vault. Not worth playing. What does it do? So you have to, it doesn't summon itself in any way. You have to target an Xyz monster that has materials, detach it, the material from it, so it could be yours or your opponent's, then special summon a Curie Vault from your deck. Now, even if the meta was very Xyz summon heavy, where you could almost guarantee your opponent will have an Xyz monster if they went first and you're going to your first turn. Even if that's the case, we do not have a rank 1 monster worth summoning. And because you can't use this as a synchro material, there's no way to do anything else with it. Now, do I think this will ever see play? I don't think we'll ever see good play. If we get Ghost Trick Dullahan, and the meta moves to an extremely Xyz heavy one like I described, you could see an anti-meta deck playing this. But this will never be meta. And even that anti-meta deck in that scenario probably wouldn't even be the best version of an anti-meta deck that doesn't include Curivot. Schwarzschild Limit Dragon. This is a good card. It is essentially a Cyber Dragon, except you can control monsters, but the opponent has to have a 2000 more attack. Good card. But obviously it has a similar limit that Cyber Dragon does, in that it does nothing if you go first, right? It's effectively a normal monster if you go first, which is it does make it difficult if your strategy relies around getting 2 level 8s on the field, and you just so happen to have this as one of the combo pieces, and you don't have any other way to do anything, which I think if you're going for that strategy, you need to run traps, purely because this card if this card is central to your strategy, you should rely on traps. Whether you need to rely on this card or not to make rank 8s, I think is up to the rest of the deck. Parsec into Stellar Dragon. If you control level 8 monster, you can normal summon this without tributing. I don't think it's good, but I'm thinking maybe one copy in a Blue Eyes deck would be cute. I don't think that's how you should play Blue Eyes, but it would be cute because, like, you don't have a lot of normal summons as it is. You have Sage sometimes, but that would be like a cute, like, okay, it gives me the option to very easily make a rank 8. But there could also be a better way to play Blue Eyes, so up in the air on that. Alright, Constella Chaos. Can't be used as 6 synchro material, but up to twice per turn, targeted Constella either increase or decrease its level. So what is this for? This is how you make the rank 5 Constella that we do not have. This is also how you make the rank 3 Constella that is kinda poopy. So, you know, alright, the rank 3 isn't that bad, but it's not good enough compared to other Xyz options we have at the moment for Constellas, such as another rare one that we'll get to in a second. This plus one of the normal the normal rarity monsters, the N rarity, sorry, is also how you can make the M7 without putting M7 on top of another Xyz. You know, I'll just jump to it now, it's fine. We'll fly through it all quickly, but so Chaos plus Constella Seat. Constella Seat says if your opponent controls a monster and you control nothing, no monsters, you can special summon it, and then its other effect is you can once per turn target a Constella monster, either you control or in your graveyard, copy its level, and it can only be used in an Xyz summon for a Constella. So, how do you do it? First, you special summon this. Say you go second, your opponent has a monster, whatever. You special summon this, then you normal summon Chaos. Then you use Chaos's effect twice on Chaos to increase level. So now Chaos is level 6. You see out to copy level, bam, you got an M7. I think that's going to happen in a Constella deck. I think you're going to play at least one Seat, at least one Chaos, just to make it possible. But I don't think that will be the best way to play Constella, or a good way to play Constella. So, you know. Digital Bug web solder. I am very hyped for digital bugs that in this video I'm going to skip every single digital bug card, and they gave us a lot of them. So if you want to hear me talk about digital bugs, you're going to have to wait for the next video. And you know what? Let's say, just to give you motivation, right? 'Cause sometimes you need a little bit of motivating. If you have not already, hit the like button. If we can get the small amount of 5 likes, just 5, that's all we need. If you see there's 5 likes on this video, you do not have to click like. I'll appreciate it if you do, but you don't have to unlock the digital bug video. I will do the digital bug video and release it once this video has hit 5 likes. That's all we need, okay? And to make sure you don't miss when I upload it, because it could be at any time, right? Just as soon as it hits 5 likes, that video will be better likely to be seen by you if you hit the subscribe button and the little bell. Okay, enough shilling, let's move on. To the bad Star Seraph cards. We go from something I'm very excited to something that is not worth talking about. Both of these two cards, not worth playing, okay? I'll go through them real quickly. Scout. When it's normal summon, special summon a Star Seraph from hand. This does nothing to continue what Stick Chair does. What does Stick Chair do? Stick adds 1, right? What does Chair do? It summons when something else has been summoned, right? Now, the only world that Scout is useful if you open Scout Stick. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, but it's also, there's no... Scout doesn't do anything unless you have Stick in hand, because Chair needs another Star Seraph to be used as an Xyz monster, and then you're just relying on Chair drawing another Star Seraph. So, yeah, don't play Scout. Scale, when Scale has been special summoned. So the only way we can do that so far is either with the bad Scout or getting lucky off Chair, okay? If you do, you get to special summon a Star Seraph from your hand, and then place a light monster from your grave on top of your deck. That's bad. That's a bad card. Because 1, you need to already have a light monster in your grave to get full value out of this. 2, you need to be able to special summon this somehow. And 3, it's just not like, okay, what do we get to do if we make an Xyz monster with this card, right? Is this worth it? Also, by the way, this is like Chair, you need 3 monsters to use this as an Xyz material. But what do we get for it? While this card, the Xyz monster, has material, if a monster is special summoned from the hand, draw a card. Whoop-de-doo. Not good, don't play it. Masked Dragon. This, along, like with a lot of other cards like it, we've already gotten. Destroy it by battle, go to the graveyard, special summon a dragon with 1500 or less attack from your deck. It does what it does. If you're playing, if you're finding ways to use those other cards that do the same thing but for different types, then you will probably find a use for Masked Dragon. I think my Masked Dragon is a bit too slow. If you can find a dragon that is so valuable to summon using this that you just have to, you could find a use for it, I will not bother looking for that use. Labradorite Dragon. It's a tuner, and that's all you need to know about it. Tuner and normal monster, because where is it? Oh yeah, this guy. When it's tributed, you can special Labradorite Dragon. So it has value because it's a tuner and a normal monster. I think mostly what determines the success of this card is based off of the rest of the card pool, and I've not looked around for it yet because I actually didn't notice this card when I first looked at the box. So here we go. That's my legitimate initial opinion of this card. But yeah, it's all play in the TCG. So I don't doubt that it will here too, in some capacity. But yeah, haven't looked too far into it yet. Alright, Constella Omega. 2 level 4 lights. So generic in a sense. You can play this in Boojins. You can play it in Tellarknights. You can play it in Constellas. Once per turn, during either player's turn, detach material. All Constella monsters that you currently control are unaffected by spell and traps for the rest of that turn. So, this is a good card. It's not a great card, it's a good card. I think it's very fitting to be an R rarity. If this was an SR rarity, I would be annoyed. I think it's exactly where it needs to be. I think it will be played in the decks that can run it, and it will make sense there. And yes, I think it's a valuable addition until we get Pallades. Hashtag release Pallades, Konami. So now we get on to skip number 1, skip number 2, skip number 3. Sorry, I refuse to talk about them until this video gets 5 likes. I'm sorry. This card I popped off for. This card is also somewhat kind of new. I mean, compared to a lot of other cards here, it is new in the TCG, but it's not super new. Like, it's less new than this guy, but more new than this guy, right? So I was like, whoa. And like, I know it's like, it has a lockdown effect to it, so it's like, huh, like a bit interesting that Konami gave this to us and made it an R. Like, I have a feeling they made this card an R so that they could very easily deal with it on the limited list in case it gets out of hand. Because we saw we saw how they dealt with URs and how long that took, and then even the SRs of Shiranui, and it's like, you know, they clearly don't want to step on the wallets of people too much, too quickly, or too heavily. So I think they very strategically made this one an R because of its last effect, but we'll read through it now. It gains 100 attack for each monster in all the graveyards, so yours and your opponent's. Nice little boost. I would not think too much of it. It's just more that you have a rank 8 monster with a minimum 2100 attack that will grow, and at minimum on the turn it's summoned, you can detach material for its effect and gain 100, so it will be 22. So like, that's how I would think about it. I would never take into account the amount of monsters in the graveyards for this card until I am able to summon it, and that's when I'll think about it. I won't think about it in deck building, only during actual gameplay. But what does it do? Once per turn, detach 1 material until the end of your opponent's next turn. This card cannot be destroyed by card effects, and neither player can special summon from the grave. This is huge. What this does is says, hey Blue Eyes, do you want to stop your opponent from summoning stuff from your grave? Just make this. Now, what I will say is that it hasn't got the most devastating lockdown type effect, floodgate type effect, because not every deck special summons from the grave, but the more the game progresses, the more we will see cards that care more and more about having stuff in the graveyard to summon later. Or also, this card will be an out to to something like, say, a Monster Reborn type effect. There are not Monster Reborn specifically, but there are some archetypes that have a spell that effectively is a Monster Reborn, but just for their archetype, right? This will shut that down, right? So this will shut down a lot more things as the time progresses, and depending on the metagame, this can be absolutely devastating to be staring down. And the worst part is, unlike something like a Necro Valley, that you can like Cosmic Cyclone or whatever, if you kill this thing somehow, like by battle or non-destruction card effect, if you get rid of it, you still can't special summon from the grave. So 100% will get better as time goes by, especially as we get more decks that can rank 8 summon and more valuable monsters to help us rank 8. It will just, yeah, as time goes by, number 68 will just get better and better. How it will be on release, I don't know. Because I don't know if Blue Eyes, even with the structure deck we're getting early next month, I don't know if they're going to be fast enough to make this turn 1. But I guess maybe in some matchups it will be devastating. But I'm trying to, like, I don't think there's really much other than Blue Eyes that can consistently rank 8. So that's why I'm focusing so much on them right now. So how well it will do on release, I don't know. Moving on to another bad card. Again, Konami, can you stop it with the 3 material level 1s, rank 1s? None of them are good. I think there is one, Lionheart, that is like half decent, but I wouldn't even call it good, and they've yet to give us even that, and instead they're giving us shit like this. Let's read through it and I'll tell you. If you don't see why it's bad, I'll explain why. So, once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card. Until the opponent's next end phase, the monsters you currently control cannot be destroyed by battle, and if they attack a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. So you want to know what this card says? It says, when I summon it by using 3 level 1 monsters and I detach a material, during that turn, I get to do piercing. During my opponent's turn, I can't be destroyed by battle, along with the rest of my monsters. But it's only monsters that were there at the time of detaching material, so you have to make sure you summon everything else first. But like, I've got to ask you, what deck is summoning 3 level 1 monsters, making this, and then making a monster that's worth giving piercing damage to and protecting by battle? And my answer to you is none. You're going to play none of this. It's a bad card. Rising Sun Slash. It's a Utopia themed card. You equip it to Utopia. Every time an attack is negated, doesn't have to be by Utopia's effect, just attack negated, you put a counter on this card. Now, for each counter, Utopia gets 500 attack. If Utopia would detach material, you can destroy this card instead. It's okay in a Utopia themed deck. It gives you an extra attack negate before running out of materials. And it makes Utopia slightly bigger. If you're playing a Utopia themed deck, you'll more than likely play this card. Lightwing Shield. I think this card is quite new, because Rising Sun Slash came out around the time of Utopia, I think even in the same starter deck. Lightwing Shield though, I don't think I've ever seen this card before today. So, when a monster is attacked and negated, you can activate one of these effects. It looks like 2 effects. Either it becomes the end phase, okay, interesting, or target a Utopia Xyz monster you control, its attack becomes double its original. Okay. So, if your opponent has multiple monsters, you can just end the battle phase right there. Huh, okay. I think that's an interesting card. Again, this is not a card you play outside of Utopia themed deck, but yeah, I think maybe in there it would be good. Potentially the double attack part, I think that would work well with double or nothing, but not sure actually. But then also I do know I read, you know, before recording, that the second, like the effect after this first effect, if Utopia detaches the material, you can banish this from the grave instead. That's amazing. So I think honestly, it's worth it in a Utopia themed deck. I think it's easy to argue that this would be more valuable than Rising Sun /2, but whatever. I'm not going to play Utopia themed deck apart from like having fun with it. Hierarchic counter trap. It's a counter trap where you tribute Hierarchic to use it. Can be used on spell traps or monster effects. Not a bad card, especially because Hierarchics like to be tributed. So yeah, good support. Hierarchic Seal of Banishment. Tribute Hierarchic to banish a card. Again, I think these two cards definitely help push Hierarchics more than I initially thought. But yeah. Alright, normals. This will be lightning fast, because even just from a distance, when I first scrolled down here, I spotted a lot of bad cards. And 2 of the vanillas were not included in that spotting, I will say. So let's go to it. Alright, rapid fire. Xyz Agent. Basically it says, if you have a Utopia Xyz monster, attach this from grave to it. Problem with it, it's a level 2. Most Utopias that exist are rank 4. We don't even have any that aren't rank 4. Bad card. Golem Dragon. Your opponent cannot target face-up dragon monsters except this one. Could be useful for a farm deck, not going to be played outside of farms. Witch Doctor of Sparta. Inflict 500, probably going to be nerfed to 250. Damage to your opponent each time a monster is special summoned from either player's deck. Potentially used in a burn strategy, but I don't think it will be successfully used. Noble Knight Yvonne. Long story short, this card was made with link summoning in mind, and because it summons a token, you can't Xyz with a token. And then its other effect is just if it has a Noble Arms equip spell equipped to it, all other Noble Knights gain 500 attack. So it's good for boosting up your whole field, but not good for anything else. So it's just we have too many good Noble Knights to even consider this card. Even some of the bad ones we already have released are better useful than this card. Same goes with X-Char in a lot of ways. Each Char. Not for the same reasons though. So you have to banish 2 Noble Knights from grave to summon it from hand or grave. That's fine. Decent effect, right? Can only do that once per turn. If you use Synchro or Xyz summon using this card, your opponent can't activate anything when that Xyz monster is summoned. So it is a level 5 that you can summon by banishing 2 Noble Knights from grave. It's just not worth running. It's not worth the space. You need setup for it. It's just you might see someone play 1 copy of it. I just don't count on it being important. Seat already went through it. I'm gonna skip you because I just had a quick look and we don't have 5 likes yet. So gotta skip you too. Kind of unfortunate. Keep in mind, I've got my I have a monitor open right now. It's right there, and I see the video. There's not 5 likes yet, so yeah. Okay, I'm beating a dead horse. Okay, just like the video, see the digital bug video. Trust me, I have a lot of good things to say about this deck. It will be the next budget deck to look out for, 100% guaranteed. Explode Possum. It's an exploding possum that if your opponent has an Xyz monster, you equip this from your hand or your side of field, but you're not summoning this, so from your hand, right, you equip it, then during your opponent's standby phase, you detach a material from that monster, and it happens every time during an opponent's standby phase. When it has no materials, the Xyz monster gets destroyed. It's a cute card, it's an anti-Xyz card, but it's you're better off just running like Fisher, you know, because it destroys it immediately. It's usually, you know, if it's the only monster, but yeah, you won't run this. Radius the Half Moon Dragon is just, again, another one of those, if Xyz decks are all of what the meta is, and you will almost always guarantee your opponent has one if they go first, then this card is playable, air quotes. But that's a very unlikely scenario. And yeah, and again, like with other things I've said, if you go first, its effect is meaningless. Basically what it says, if they have an Xyz monster, special this guy from your hand, it becomes level 8. It's just bad. Fairy Archer. Might see some play in burn decks. Again, probably won't be the correct way to play a burn deck. But you'll probably see a few people play it, and you might lose to it and be annoyed because you lost to a bad strategy, but like, you know, people see burn cards and go, ooh, burn card. It'll probably be reduced damage, just like I said before, but again, even if it wasn't, even if this is inflict 400 for each face-up light monster you control, at most that's 1200, but it won't be, it'll be 600, so don't worry about it. Star Seraph Sword, continuing the theme of Stick Chair being the only good Star Seraphs, this card is bad. You can send one Star Seraph monster from your hand to the graveyard. This card gains attack equal to that monster's attack until the end phase. Awesome! That doesn't flow with the strategy in any way. Don't play it. Please don't. Star Seraph Sage is it's probably the most playable Star Seraph that isn't Stick Chair, and it's still not worth running. Once per turn, you can send a spell from your hand to the grave, special summon a Star Seraph from your hand. Yeah, it's you need to discard a spell card. If that spell card does nothing in the grave, then you just lost a resource for a special summon. That's not really going to be going anywhere. But there are a couple of scenarios where this card could be the starter you need. But again, I'd rather just keep that spell card, and that spell card do something to help me, and not waste my normal summon on this mediocre card. And again, most people who are going to play a Star Seraph engine are only going to play Stick Chair, because if you're playing it as an engine, that's all you need. King Fog. It's a level 3 fiend, normal monster. I've always said this, but because it's less than level 4, unexpected die, and I believe it's painful decision, give it some potential use as a target, but I'm pretty sure we already have at least one Dark level 3 fiend, so at this point they're just releasing them to like give us access to them. Collectors rejoice. Island Turtle, same story, but I like this good boy. And also, fun fact, not that you should do this, but concentrating current on an Island Turtle destroys blue eyes, so keep that in mind, people. But no, I think Island Turtle is a good boy, so we stand Island Turtle. Zanki, irrelevant card because it's a level 5. There's no way to make use for this. There's going to be some random bad cards that make use of it, but no, just don't. It's whatever. It's a card for people who like the artwork or whatever. They're releasing it to get it out there. Don't worry, don't worry about it. Hades. 2 level 3 light monsters. Constella Hades, by the way. Once per turn, detach a material, change all monsters your opponent controls to the face-up defense position. Has its uses, but it's just not, like, if you're in a position where you can make this in a Constella deck, that means you can make any of the Xyz monsters. So there's going to be very few scenarios where this is the optimal one. The one I can think of that springs to mind immediately is if your opponent has a monster with higher attack than M7 has, but lower defense than M7 has attack, you could make Hades, put it to the defense position, then summon M7, beat over it. That's pretty much Hades' use. And its use outside of Constella decks is, funnily enough, the exact same. So yeah, it's deserving of an end rarity. Constella Praesepe. It's not generic at all. Has to be 2 level 4 Constellas. Once per turn during the damage step, in either player's turn, when a Constella monster you control is attacked or being attacked, detach a material, that monster gains 1000. It's not bad. It's pretty much the beta for Constellas, because it is bigger than M7, when taking into account its effect. But because it has to activate its effect, it leaves itself vulnerable to if, say, the opponent has an effect negation that doesn't get rid of Praesepe. So it's going to have its uses, but it's going to be replaced as soon as there's a generic rank 4 that can do its job better, and there are ones that do that. But it will still have a niche of being able to put M7 on top of it, so keep that in mind. Spirit Converter, this is essentially Thunder support, or Thunder family, or whatever you want to call it. You just don't play it, please. Like, it's not... You might read it and go, oh, there's value in this card. Like, once per turn I can just put a material on my Xyz monster. Like, infinite materials, right? But it has to be sent from the field to the graveyard to get its better effect, which still isn't even that good. And to actually get value out of this card in any sense of the word, you need to have an Xyz monster worth keeping materials on. It's just, it's a mediocre card. There's better ways, like, you're better off just playing a card that gets you to winning the game faster than you are playing a card that slowly gives back resources as you use them. It's just, there are better cards. Now, I will say, the second effect can be triggered by Storm and Double Cyclone. And I think that is the best use of this card, but it's still not worth it in my opinion. Constella Tempest, this is one of those, like, funny to get, to have work cards, but, like, is not worth using. So, during your end phase, if you have 2 Constellas, Xyz monsters, attach all materials from both of them. Then halve your opponent's life points. So even if your opponent has 100 life points left, you cannot win the game with this. So why would you bother doing it, right? Second effect, once per turn during the standby phase, target a Constella, Xyz monster, and a Constella monster in your grave, attach the grave one to the field one. Like I said with the previous, Spirit Converter, a card that slowly adds back materials is not worth it, and its other effect just does not help your win condition enough to justify its cost. Constella Star Chart. Once per turn, when a Constella Xyz monster is special summoned to your field, draw a card. I don't think you play this, but if I see it in a deck, I'm not going to laugh as hard as I would if I saw Tempest, okay? In fact, I would laugh if I saw you play Tempest, because I know I'm going to win that duel. If I see you play Star Chart, I'm going to still give you respect as a duelist. I won't if you play Tempest. That's the easiest way to explain it. In fact, the best way to explain it is, if we were to rank these cards on a scale of 1 to 10, Tempest is a 0, and Star Chart is a 10 comparatively to Tempest. But Star Chart on the overall card scale is like a 4. That should help you learn how bad Tempest is. All my homies hate Tempest, fuck Tempest. Speaking of fucking, yeah, we need some more fucking likes on this video. Jeez. Mirage Tube. Now, I'm assuming this is going to be inflict 500, not inflict 1000 like it says here, so keep that in mind. But you can't, this is the weird thing. It's a quick play spell that you cannot activate from your hand. Which begs the question, why is this not just a trap? I'm assuming it was used in the anime or manga at some point. And it was a spell there and they decided to keep it as a spell here. I don't know, it's just very weird, but activate it when a face-up monster that you control is being attacked. Inflict 1000 damage. Like I said, I think it's going to be changed to 500. Not worth playing. It's just not, like, cool. I attacked you and you dealt 500 effect damage to me. If that didn't win you the game, you know, and if it did win you the game, I'm going to be mad, because this is not a good card, and I'm going to lose to a good card. I'm calling it now. At some point in 2021, I will lose to this card on ranked and be upset. Reverse Breaker. Another Utopia themed card. Equip it to Utopia. When Utopia attacks, that equipped Utopia, you can target a spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy it, and your opponent cannot activate spell or traps in response to this. Good card for Utopia decks. Bad card for everything else. But I will say, I feel like Reverse Breaker is arguably better than Rising Sun Slash, and their positions should be switched. But because Rising Sun Slash was like, that's Utopia's attack. Like, that's like Dark Magic attack or Burst Lightning or whatever. That's right. That's what Utopia is told to do in the anime, right? So I think that's the only reason why that's got a rare slot and this has an end slot, because this is worthy of the rare slot and this is barely worthy of it. Greed. I'm assuming this will be halved as well. Each player draws cards. Each time a player draws cards because of a card effect, they will take 250 damage for each during the end phase. So if you say Pot of Greed during the end phase, you take 250 damage 2 times because you drew two cards. Oh wait, no, sorry. No, I got that wrong. It's each time, but not for each. So if you activate Pot of Greed, you only take 250 damage. But if you activate Pot of Greed 2 times, you'll take the damage twice. Just had to clear that up. Minor Goblin Official is another card for burn decks, but this one might actually see play. So, you can only activate when your opponent's life points are 3,000 or less. I wonder if they will change that activation condition or not. Because in the TCG, this means your opponent had to have less, like, you know, like, what is it? 5/8? Yeah, 5/8 of their life points lost. Whereas in Duel Links, that's only a quarter. So it's easier to activate. So I wonder if they will change that or not. I think they're definitely going to change 500 inflict down to 250 points inflicted. But anyway, so you can only activate when your opponents are 3,000 or less. inflict 250 points of damage to your opponent during each of their standby phases. This I think will definitely see play and burn, because it's an easy, consistent damage, but will burn ever be prevalent again? Who knows. Solar Ray. Inflict 300, I'm assuming, points of damage to your opponent's life points for each face-up light monster on your side of the field. Even with the original wording... Okay, with the original wording, it would be dangerous because if you had multiple copies of this card, but with the assumed 300 points of damage, this will do at most with one activation 900 damage. With 2 activations 18, 3 activations 27, bad card. Bug Emergency. Technically, this is not a digital bug card, but functionally it is, so I will not talk about it here. And that's the end of the video. Again, I've already said it a lot, so I won't harp on it too much more. If you want to see the digital bug video, I'll put it out the moment this video hits 5 likes. But I just want to thank you all for watching. Tell me what your thoughts are of this box review are. Tell me how wrong I am, tell me how right I am. Either way, I know I'm right, so you know, do your best. But just let me know. Let me know, are you excited for anything in this box? Like I've said, I'm very excited for digital bugs. We'll go over that in the next video. I will say, I will release that video no matter what, even if this video doesn't get enough likes, but I have an exact date in mind of when I'll release the digital bug video, so I'm not going to tell you. So just like the video and you'll get it sooner. I'm telling you. We're almost there. Almost at 5 likes already.